Well, welcome everybody to the Sportsman Coffee Talks podcast. And I'm Slim Overton. And of course, we have a special guest here with us today. But let me introduce our co host. The co host, you know her, Leah Drake Stiff. And we have a guest co host, and her name is Darlene McCoy Walker. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you,
Thank
James.
you.
And for
Hello.
those who might miss the Colonel is with his lovely wife. They are celebrating their anniversary.
Oh, well,
So,
congratulations to them.
yes, he'll be back next time. I don't know how many years it is. I don't think he had, well, I don't think he has as many as I do, but he's up there. But anyway, we have a special guest, and Leah's going to introduce her. And of course, you know, the national scene, our president and his cabinet are doing a lot of crazy things. And we
Oh,
wanted to have our guests on here to talk about Virginia and how it's going to
Yes.
affect us here in the state of Virginia and all the localities, and how the General Assembly the last session went. So, there are a lot of things we're going to talk about. Of course, we want you to make your comments and ask questions to the senator. So, let me just let Leah introduce her first before I start
Thank you, James. Thank
the
you.
conversation. Okay.
Well, it is my privilege to introduce to you someone who's no stranger to any of us. Any who are in the area and outside the area know this young lady.
oh
None
Lord.
other than Senator Louise Lucas, President pro tem of the of the uh, of the Senate, representing District 18. Am I correct, Senator?
That is
District
correct.
18. Also, she's on finance and appropriations. She's the chair for finance and appropriations, for commerce and labor, education and health, and rules. And most of all, in all of the introductions you could possibly give to her, she's a graduate of IC Norcom High School. That's the highest award she's been given. Okay. But I
Thank
don't need
you.
to say, we know she's been involved in everything in the city, in the state. She was served on the city council in the city of Portsmouth. So we are just so happy and belong to every organization, so many organizations
Yeah.
that we could not even begin to
Ah,
address all the organizations. But
oh my
I
God.
don't know how she does it, but she moves all over the state, from one event to the next, from one end of the state to the other end of the state. She's constantly busy. So it is our pleasure, of course, to introduce none other than our senator, Senator Louise Lucas. Welcome to Portsmouth Coffee Talk,
Well,
Senator.
thank you so
Woohoo.
much. Thank you, Leah, and thank you, James, and thank you also, Darlene. It's a pleasure for me to be here with you all this afternoon. My day started very early. I was, as you all know, I used to represent the Suffolk and Isle of Wight, Greenville County, that other part, more western part of the state. Well, they still claim me, and of course, we had two members from the school board to retire today. Well, they retired actually just before Christmas. And so I went up to present them with a commending resolution on their service on serving on the Suffolk City School Board. And so when I got back this afternoon, I started to look over some of the remarks that I had for this podcast this afternoon. And I just want to start by saying that, I was elected to city council in 1984
Yes,
and have been in the Senate since 1992. So for me, that's been a total of
a
20,
lifetime.
40
It's been
years.
a lifetime.
It's been a lifetime. It certainly has been a lifetime, but it has been a pleasure for me to serve the citizens of the city of Portsmouth on the city council, and most especially in the Senate of Virginia, because since 1992, I've had an opportunity to serve on almost every standing committee in the Senate. I've had subcommittee appointments that I would never have dreamed a young girl from Portsmouth, black girl from Portsmouth, growing up in segregated Portsmouth, would ever have an opportunity to serve on. So, I counted a blessing to be able to have the opportunity so that I can give back to the people who continue to support me. Um, and just like I said, it's just an honor for me to be able to continue to serve. And you all have kept me there long enough for me to become president pro tem of the Senate. All of that happens as a result of seniority because we're a seniority-based system. And
Right.
so now I am the first, not only woman, but first African-American to serve as president pro tem of the Senate. And that's because you kept sending me back time and time again until I got seniority enough to acquire that position. At the same time, I became of course, last year, chair of Senate Finance and Appropriations. I'm the first African American to ever chair the Money Committee. in the Senate. And again, that's all because of seniority, because you all kept me there long enough for me to be able to elevate to that position. And as you know, Leah, because you've been involved with this process long enough, you and James both, and darling, you probably too have too, but not to the same extent that we have because you're not as old, right? but but I can tell you that the process is, a lot of people will say, "Oh, you've been there this long, and when you're going to retire." But people need to understand that in a seniority-driven system, you don't get to the position that I'm in unless you've been able to stay there long enough to get that kind of seniority.
Mhm.
And there's no one from this area who has that seniority that
No.
will move up to the position.
No.
Yeah.
And Leah, and while you're on that, Leah, let me just say for just so that the audience will understand. Let's say, for example, if I decided to retire at the end of this term, because I just got reelected in 2023.
Uh-huh.
So I still have two years and the rest of this year, 2 years and 8 months on this term before I have to run again. Well, let's say if I decided to retire, which I don't intend to.
I don't blame you.
All right.
And I'll tell you why after I give you my scenario behind this. If I decided to retire, and let's say another young aspiring person from Portsmouth were to run and win the seat, do you know how long it would take for them to get seniority enough to be chair of Senate Finance and Appropriation,
Mhm.
or to become? And I don't know if we'll ever have another president pro tem from Portsmouth
That's for
because
sure.
of the amount of time that it takes to get there. I mean, at least not in our lifetime. Let me just say it that way.
Right. Right.
That's not to say that it will not happen, but it has taken me 30 plus years to get to be
Yeah.
president pro tem
Mhm.
and to become chair of Senate Finance and Appropriation. And that's because I've been there long enough to wait until some people retired. Unfortunately, some people died, and some people just got defeated.
Mhm.
And so I'm one of the last standing in the Senate who've been there since 1992. And only one other member, Creed East, has been there since 92, but he didn't even start off in the Senate. Creed started off in 92 in the House of Delegates. So
That's
I
right.
am the longest standing member of the Senate of Virginia.
Wow.
That's
Amen.
how I managed to get
That
through.
says a lot within itself.
Yeah.
Well, it says a lot about the people who put their confidence in me.
That's right. That's right.
And I think that's due in large part because, I grew up in Portsmouth, grew up in the Norfolk Naval Shipyard, went to IC Norcom High School, went to Norfolk State University. And, one of the things that we know to do best, we know how to fight.
Uh-huh.
And what constituents want is somebody that they know will fight
We'll fight
for
for
them.
them.
They don't want somebody to just get there who wants to have a position and just be a glorified member of the House of Delegates or a member of the Senate. They want to know, what have you done for me? And I think I have a track record that proves that I will fight for them, but also that I deliver. And so let me just jump into some of the things that we did this year in accordance with the procedure resolution. Of course, that has to be agreed to by the House and the Senate. Our first order of business, because of what we spelled out in the procedure resolution, was to deal with judicial appointments.
Yes.
And as you all know, we have 2 members of our judiciary who will be retiring this year: Judge Johnny E. Morrison and Judge Kenneth R. Melvin. Both would have exceeded the amount of time that they could serve in the judiciary because we have age requirements on the judiciary. And so what we did first was to make sure that we approved through the body the appointment of the 2 people who will be replacing them. And of course, as you all probably know by now, Attorney Michael Massey will be replacing Judge Johnny E. Morrison, and our city attorney, LaVonna Graham Williams, will be replacing Circuit Court Judge Kim Melvin. So we're going to have 2 new Circuit Court judges who will be taking those positions upon the retirement of our 2 most esteemed members of the Circuit Court here in Portsmouth. And then at the same time, we reappointed Circuit Court Judge Brenda Spry. Remember, she used to be, Brenda Spry, very good judiciary, very good on the bench.
Yes.
She went up for reappointment, and she was reappointed. And for those people who live in Chesapeake, I'd have you to know that the Commonwealth Attorney, Derek Wagner, We promoted him to the General District Court because we moved Linda Bryant from General District up to the Circuit Court.
Good.
We took care of some of those things first, and then of course we moved on to judiciary. And let me see where I put this note. For those of you who know Judge Bernard Goodwin, he was one of the first members of the judiciary that I appointed to the bench. And at that time, I appointed him to the General District bench. He moved from there to the circuit. From there, Tim Kaine appointed him to the Court of Appeals, I believe it might have been. But I know when he moved up to the, he moved up to the Supreme Court. And so he has now gotten to the point where he is going to retire. And so Judge Junius P., and a lot of people just know him as J.P. Fulton, from Norfolk in the Court of Appeals, will be promoted to replace Judge Bernard Goodwin on the Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, we're going to move Judge Kevin Duffin to the Circuit Court to replace Judge Fulton. And, of course, we already have Judge Stephen Fucci already on the Court of Appeals. So we took care of all of the judiciary stuff first, and then we moved into working towards some of the vetoes and amendments that the governor had put in for the budget. Mm-hmm. And as you all know, in the House, where all 100 members of the delegates are up for re-election this fall, we all spoke on about 13 vetoes. And there was a lot of bantering back and forth talking about why people vote the way they did. And a lot of folks are saying that they're afraid of Trump, like they think he's going to put a hit on them or something.
That's amazing.
So they are just afraid of Trump, so they just do whatever Trump tells them to do. So, for example, there was a bill that would have removed weapons of war from our communities, and they were too afraid to even vote on a bill like that. But we had 157. Yes, ma'am. We had 157 sustained vetoes. Included legislation such as increased minimum wage, and I carried that minimum wage bill last year myself with Senate Bill 1.
Yeah.
And the governor vetoed that bill. And of course, it came back this year, same form, same result. He would not legalize regulation of recreational sales of marijuana, or to allow localities to have a 1 cent levy sales charge to fund school construction.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some of the stuff that happens over there is just absolutely mind-blowing. And then,
Senator Lucas.
yeah.
Senator Lucas, let me ask you a question real quick, since you're talking about the governor and the vetoes. Can you explain how that works? Because you all can have the power to override his vetoes if necessary, but sometimes you can't, because you said it came up last year, you vetoed it, and that held right until this year. So what's the process for overriding the governor's veto?
Well, as I explained to you what happened with the 159 bills that we had that he returned to the General Assembly this year, I'll describe that. During the reconvened session, you all know we had last week, the legislature, we voted to accept 69 of the governor's recommendations, and then of course those will be signed into law. Mm-hmm. But as you think about how the General Assembly works, we voted to send back to the governor those bills that he had put amendments on that we didn't like.
Right.
The way that process worked is, what we did was we rejected his amendments and sent them back to him. Now he has 30 days to either sign them or to veto them. So for right now, the bills are still alive. But in some cases, we voted to reject the amendments by a 2/3 majority to pass the bill in its enrolled form, meaning the governor, now if he doesn't have to sign the bill, he can leave it alone, and it still will be become law.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right, it still will become law. But we have to have either, depending on whether it has a budget amendment attached to it, we have to either have a simple majority or 2/3. We have to have a 2/3 to override the governor's veto. And we were not able to do that in a lot of those instances because, in the House of Delegates, they have a majority by 1, same as we do in the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So it's hard to get to the 2/3 majority to override the governor's veto. Mm-hmm. So a lot of those bills that the governor vetoed, we were able to get enough vote to say, okay, we're going to reject the governor's amendments and pass these by for the day. So they go back to the governor, so he gets another bite at the apple.
Okay.
But unless we've got a 2/3 majority, we cannot override a veto.
Yeah,
Senator,
that's why elections are important. Elections are important.
yeah,
Exactly.
for sure. Question, Senator Lucas,
Yes.
and I'm honored to be up here with you and hear all of this. It's just it's so good and always good to see you. And as Leah was introducing you, she was saying all of trying to give some of your accolades because your list is so long. But
So long.
I wanted to throw one in there that I'm just honored that you are a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated.
How could I?
Absolutely.
I'm
So
sorry. I'm sorry, Darlene.
no, that's all right.
I'm sorry.
You just gave me
That
my
was for
thunder.
Darlene to do. That was for her
Yeah,
to
you
do.
just gave me my
And,
I got
and,
that
thunder.
from you,
That's
Darlene.
all. So I
and
just
darling, and while we're talking about Delta Sigma Theta sorority, a lot of my sorors are also my link sisters. So also I am a member of Portsmouth Links.
all
And so a
right,
lot of
all
us are
right.
in both the same organization. I had to give them a shout out as well.
Yeah,
Thank you, darling. I appreciate that. And I hope we have some Deltas watching this podcast this afternoon.
for sure, and without a doubt, because we love having you around and being able to hear this. You're saying some good stuff. I am not so deep into the political realm, but listening to you, I understood everything that you were saying. What I don't understand, and I guess that's not going to work over time, is where people get being so afraid of somebody that they actually have
I have
never met, don't
no
know. How do you
idea.
get so afraid of him that you're not moving forward with things that you should be moving forward to? I'm thinking like, what did he go out here and get all kinds of dirt on you or something that
Well, you know what,
everybody said?
darling, it's hard to believe though that of all of the members of Congress, he's got dirt on enough folks that they all have ceded their authority to him. I
Exactly.
mean, the members of the House, the members of the Senate,
Exactly. Like
they
everybody.
have given all of their authority
All of
All
the
of
authority.
it.
to Trump.
Yeah.
They do whatever, and I am so glad that my parents didn't raise any cowards,
Come on.
because I'm gonna speak the truth as I see it and as I know it. And if you don't believe it, just watch my social media, especially on X, because
Yes.
I be giving it to them.
And
Uh-huh.
they deserve it. They deserve it. There are so many. Like you said, it's unbelievable that you would give that kind of power to someone, and especially when you don't know the person personally. So
Exactly.
you're letting us know you agree with their way of doing their processes and stuff, and what all is going on. But yet, when we speak to that to you, you're in defense.
Right.
You know,
Right.
you're not taking in what we're saying and everything. You're in major defense, and it has just been mind-boggling to say the least. And
It has. To me, I believe, as Martin Luther King did, these are difficult times and we got difficult days ahead, but we're resilient.
yes,
We've been,
yes,
and a lot of people say this is the worst they've ever seen. This is not the worst it's ever been. Those of us who came through the civil rights movement, we know
Thank you.
that there've been some tough days, but we know how to get through this, because
Exactly.
we've been through a lot worse.
and
But
this
I
is
just want
not
to say to you
slavery.
that because of the just like James said, elections have consequences, and because of that, we have 51 Democrats in the House, 21 Democrats in the Senate. In both bodies, we have a majority by one. So we can't get to the result that we want on a lot of issues because we don't have the numbers. Well, let me give you an example. We voted to accept Youngkin's recommendations for a bill that will reduce probationary sentences for people who meet certain employment, education, housing, and healthcare criteria. Because and Youngkin's vetoed a similar bill last year. And the reason, and we accepted it this year, even with its amendments to it, because it was better to get a half loaf than none at all.
Exactly.
So we made some compromises, which you do have to do that, to make sure that we at least got some reduced sentences for some of the people that we were working for. Let me give you an example. as the bill initially passed, people on probation could earn either 15 or 30 days trim from their sentence, depending on the criteria. So now you're talking about people on probation. But the governor changes included all of the credits reduced down to 15 days. And especially now I find that people can be denied their credit reductions even for a technical violation. Now, as bad as that is, that was better than nothing.
Right.
So sometimes we have to compromise to the point where you have to almost bite your tongue until blood run down your throat because you have because that's all you can get.
Yes.
And that was all we could get out of that. And let me just say this. We did work closely to try to ensure that this bill got passed. So it took Democrats and Republicans working together to even get what I don't consider a half a loaf. It was more like a quarter of a loaf to me. But we also accepted some amendments on a bill that would direct school boards to come up with a plan to limit cell phone use in the classroom. Now, the governor added into that bell-to-bell language that will restrict their use during school hours generally. And just like I said, if you don't have the numbers, you have to accept what you can get. But in a lot of cases, we were able to have some of the measures rejected and return them back to the governor because we did have enough votes to do that. We rejected amendments that will substantially change legislation. For example, a bill that would establish a right for contraceptives. Youngkin's proposed recommendations would have permitted physicians to deny contraceptions based on religious or conscientious objections. And of course, we are one of the last states in the nation where people can feel like they can come and have their reproductive health care taken care of without going to jail.
Yes.
Or without the doctor feeling like they have to go to jail. So a lot of this stuff, we just, it's better to have nothing than to go with the stuff that he puts in, the vetoes that he put in.
Senator Lucas, let me. We have a question from one of our viewers. You might jump around a little bit, but when a question pops up, I like to address it right away. So I'll put it up here on the screen, and it's
okay. They want to ask. I didn't see it.
Put it back.
Okay, ask to touch on the governor's budget impact on nursing facilities. Okay, I will do that. I got a couple more bills, and then I go right to the budget issues. Okay. We voted to accept the governor's amendment on a bill that will require the Board of Medicine to mandate unconscious bias and cultural competency training. That's the kind of stuff that we sometimes you got to just make some. As much as I even hate the word, sometimes you do have to compromise, right? But in a rare move, let me say this before I get into the budget issues. Our House Speaker Don Scott, he ruled on one of the governor's amendments as non-germane, meaning that it was too far removed and unrelated from the intent of the bill, and directed the school board to develop plans to communicate to parents the importance of storing firearms and prescription drug safety. The governor tacked on to that legislation a provision that would require schools to notify parents if their child expressed a gender identity different from their sex assigned at birth. The non-germane ruling meant that the amendment was effectively thrown out, and the bill, as it passed the legislation, went right back to the governor's desk. So that was a smart move on our speaker's part to make sure that he used the non-germaneness rule to make sure that the governor couldn't tack on the egregious stuff that would have pretty much ruined the bill. Now, let me get to some of the budget highlights so that I can get to the point of responding to the question. First of all, the budget adopted by the General Assembly provided immediate relief to families and individuals, makes criteria or critical investments in education, and provides support to government employees. I went to the General Assembly this year with a mission to make sure that while Youngkins is out there trying to give away tax breaks to all these rich people who don't need it, don't deserve it, I wanted to make sure that we did something for the hardworking people of Virginia, the families in Virginia. So I put in $1.1 billion, $1.1 billion, so that we're going to have some immediate ongoing tax relief for Virginia's hardworking families. And what that will do will authorize a tax rebate of $200 for individuals and $400 for joint filers. And people will be getting those checks in the mailbox on October the 15th this year.
Okay.
So we're going to send some of that money back,
Yes.
back to hard-working Virginians.
Yes.
And we reduce all citizens' liabilities by further adjusting the standard deduction of $8,750 for individuals and $17,500 for joint filers. We increase the refundable portion of the Earned Income Tax Credit, or the EITC as most people refer to it, providing ongoing tax relief to lower income citizens and lifting children out of poverty. We're going to have, and I know a lot of teachers are going to be glad to hear this, so I hope they're listening up. We're going to have in June a $1,000 bonus for teachers and school staff. $1,000 bonus and a 1.5% bonus for state employees and state-supported local employees.
Awesome.
And yeah, we put in $222.9 million to fully fund state-recognized support positions in schools, and $52.8 million to increase state support by 10% for special education students. And what that will do will allow teachers to be able to teach, and they will have the support staff to be able to do the other things.
With them.
Yes, ma'am. So that the teachers will be able to dedicate their time to teaching the students. And while I'm on that point, and I'm going to get to the question about the nursing homes and the Medicaid facility. And while I'm on that point, last year I put in a budget amendment to make sure that we have a teaching specialist in every school in Virginia. And that's because we need to make sure that our children are reading on third grade level when they get to the third grade. And then I put in a budget amendment that was K through 3. Then I put in a budget amendment for 4 through 8 to make sure that students were also learning at grade level, because if they're not reading on par at grade level, all that's doing is a school to prison pipeline.
That's
That's
right.
For the reading, for the reading literacy program, we're doing the same thing this year for math.
Okay.
We made significant investments to help Virginians achieve home ownership and to address high rent income Virginians and to increase the state supply of affordable housing. We included $20 million to pilot a program that will provide direct rental assistance to families in Northern Virginia and in Hampton Roads. And after the budget goes into effect on July 1st, I'm sure a lot of people are going to be calling me asking how they can access those programs. Just like I hope people are accessing the toll money now, because it all became available on January 1st this year. So if people are not utilizing the budget, the funds that we provided through the budget, have them call us so that we can tell them how to access it.
And that's for people who have those toll bills.
Yes, ma'am.
They can just call. Who would they call?
They can call my office, and we will direct you to the appropriate person who will help them, depending on whether or not they're going to be eligible for the 14 free trips through the tunnel, or whether they have a partial or complete waiver of the past due or delinquent toll bills. We will have a person who they can be directed to, who will help them with whatever part of that process they need.
Good.
And right. So just have them call my office, and we'll make sure we get them in contact with the right person. We put in $15 million for a new grant program. This one is to increase the supply of affordable housing, and I told you about that one. The General Assembly acted on a couple of amendments that would maintain our significant investment in public education, because especially with all of the crap that's going on at the national level, with the Trump administration want to abolish the
Department of Education.
So we need to get ourselves ready for whatever we have to do to prop up our students here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, because the one way you manage to get several underclasses of people is to make sure that they don't get a quality education.
That's right.
So we have to make sure that we continue to fund public education. And the same amount of money it costs to educate a child in Northern Virginia, it takes that same amount of money to educate a child here in Hampton Roads or Southwest Virginia. So we just want to make sure that we fully fund education. And the governor wanted to cut our funding for support positions. Did I forget to tell you that? He wanted to cut it by 2/3, and of course, we didn't let that happen. We rejected those cuts to ensure that public schools are funded in these uncertain times. And at this point, We're trying to react to the rumors and potential proposals around tax cuts, Medicaid cuts, and overall spending reductions. We anticipate long-term funding cuts, but the federal government has not yet acted except through actions of the federal government. We don't know exactly how much of that stuff is going to fall back on us yet. Currently, we are doing what we can to prepare and think ahead to, I established a special subcommittee on federal impact of resources, and we'll be traveling around the state. I talked to James about that. I think was it yesterday, James?
Yes.
I hope when we have one of those, be like a town hall here in the Hampton Roads area, that you might be able to live stream that.
Right, right.
That'd be good.
Or have access to it, because Virginia's economy is diverse, but we have a significant federal presence. We have more than 145,000 civilian federal employees who live in Virginia. And we have a huge military presence right here in Hampton Roads. And because of those factors, Virginia is arguably more dependent on federal funding than other states, and we will definitely be impacted. We're going to be hit hard. We have seen the impacts of some of this stuff since President Trump took office and eliminated agencies, terminated employment, and many of those actions will slowly show up in state revenue collections and unemployment.
Yeah.
So how soon do you think it will be hitting in Virginia? When are we going to feel the pain of all that they're doing up there in Washington?
Well, I tell you what, a lot of people are feeling some of the pain right now, and especially those who have 401ks.
Yeah.
Oh yes, indeed.
And people are losing. Let me say this, and I'm still going to get to the part about the nursing home.
Yes.
People who are not, I'm talking about wealthy, who are not wealthy, who have 401ks, a lot of those folks' money has been wiped out.
That's right. That's right.
And you know what? A lot of those folks are people who voted for Trump.
Exactly.
He didn't think they were coming for him. They thought that Trump was going to come in for a certain class of people that they don't like.
Exactly.
But let me say this to you. A vast number of the people who will be affected are people who live in red districts, red states.
Exactly.
And so they are going to be hit hard as well. And I'm just telling you, people talking about the stock market rebounding, but those people who have lost everything, they're not going to get that back.
No, they're not. It would take forever for that money to replenish itself.
And what about people who are already at a point where they were about to retire?
Yeah.
They did not think that Donald Trump meant what he said, and that he was going to follow that Project 2025. Remember, I all over the state last year.
Yeah.
That's right.
James, you did live stream on us on some of that.
Yeah.
Telling
We
people,
talked about it quite a bit.
Trump told people what he was going to do, and what did they say? A lot of them said, "Oh, he's just talking. He's not going to do
He's just talking. He's not going to do it. He's just talking."
Because I think too, Senator, it went right like you were saying. He talked big for particular populations of people that they just went along with it. He's gonna, and I'll say it. You're working toward doing anything that's going to get these black people out of the way. These African Americans who are doing this, that, and stealing and this and that. We're gonna get all these the Hispanic people out of the way because they're not supposed to be here. He was just ranting and raving on a whole lot of that, and some of these people believe that. They want to believe that, and they move with that. But then they didn't look at the plan so easily because they just didn't think what he was saying was going to touch them. And now that you're being touched, I mean, during the years of me being at Norfolk State, if you had, that was early 80s, if you had a government job, if you got a job at the base, y'all know that was big time. You were going to be doing good. You got a job on the base doing whatever, and you graduated from Norfolk State. But that was still hard to get into, and it was not heavily African-American populated in those jobs.
Exactly. And especially for women, because when I started out as an apprentice at the Norfolk Naval Shipyard. Okay. And when I left the shipyard, I was a deputy equal employment opportunity officer. I had gone to soup ship and was a deputy equal employment opportunity officer. But how many times do we get elevated to positions like that?
Exactly.
And so I was with the federal government for 18 and a half years until I got elected to a city council and and my captain said that I got to be too visible and too vocal, and he was gonna put me in a different position. And I said, no, you don't have to worry about that because I'm leaving. Of course, they didn't think I was gonna quit, and I did.
Yeah, and that ties back to what you were saying about staying in your position. It would take another 30 some years for another African American person, male or female, to reach the status of where you are now. It'll take another 30, 40 years for that to happen again.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Because it's not happening so rapidly. But he said that's what he was going to do, and they believed him on that note.
Right.
He's going to do it to somebody else and not to us.
And I'll tell you what,
now,
I feel sorry for a lot of those folks who live in those trailer homes who had Donald Trump signs in their yards sitting on the side of a mountain. God bless them. I hope Lord help them, because Trump not going to do a thing for them.
Exactly.
It still has not done anything for some of them. Still has not. So it has been a crisis, a major problem. And my dad was saying that we have a blueprint.
Yes.
As African Americans, we have a blueprint. And I've been saying that we know how to move through this. It's not so easy, but we've been here before with
we're resilient.
Yeah, we are very resilient people, and we are very determined. And I don't think those people, as they looking at the Make America Great Again, you weren't paying attention to the fact that African American people are not in the same position that we were in 1823.
That's right. That's because a lot of us got educated enough
There
to know
you
how.
go. Yeah, we are educated. We have resources.
That's the reason why. Let me tell you something, and I believe this with everything that's within me. If they can try to keep Black and brown people from getting a quality education, they feel like they would have met their goal.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And because
and
I
that's
tell you,
not going to happen.
There's nothing they fear more than educated Black people.
Yeah, that's not going to happen, because there are too many of us out there that can support. If you take all of that funding out of certain schools, public schools, and the school is looking like it's down, we've got some more. We can really rally. We need to put and step dead into that school and start supporting them. Our kids don't have to read the raggedy books. I remember that as a child coming up about, we had books from other schools in Norfolk.
But other school and other schools' names were in the books.
Exactly. And they were not new books or anything. No. And we were bused, and every year we were bused for at least 4 years of my elementary time frame. And so that does not have to happen now. And there are enough of us in power positions that have resources that we can support our children. We just need folks to get on up and get out and stop looking at somebody else is going to do it. Volunteer, join organizations. I'm president of our Black Child Development Institute here in Hampton Roads. We're working to get that literacy piece up. You spoke to that earlier. Our kids are not reading well. By third grade, their reading scores have dropped tremendously.
And a lot of that's because of COVID, but we had some learning loss even before COVID.
Before that, yes.
So that's even more reason for us to put that $50 million into that literacy program to make sure that we have these reading specialists in the school and that we have these math specialists in the school. And education is one of the most near and dearest thing to my heart, because as you know, I grew up at a time during massive resistance, you know, and it hit a lot of schools across the Commonwealth of Virginia. And even if your school didn't get shut down, you were affected. But one of the things that was our saving grace is that we had teachers who believed in us and who poured into us.
Yes.
And let me tell you something. The best education you can get is by somebody who looks like you, who care about who you will become.
Say so, Senator. Say so.
And so, Senator,
yes.
As you're speaking about education, what has the General Assembly put into place for HBCUs in the area?
Oh, let me tell you something. HBCUs, oh my God, I wish we could have a program where we could have some of the HBCUs on.
We're working on that.
The Black Caucus stood firm in our commitment to make sure that HBCUs got more funding this year than any other budget that we've ever had. And that was due in large part to not only just the Democrats, but also to the members of the Black Caucus who made that our number one priorities. Our number one priority. And so we were able to do some things for HBCUs this year in the budget that we've never been able to do before. And, and I don't want our time to expire. And it looks like this hour is going a whole lot faster than I thought. but I want to respond to the question about Medicaid and Medicaid expansion. The question was asked a little bit ago. And we have, as you all know, we had over a $600 million backfill on Medicaid that we had, that we, the Senate of Virginia, that we had to pay. Because, the federal government plays a significant portion of Medicaid, which means that, let's say, for example, if the Trump administration was to say, okay, I'm going to send Medicaid back down to the states, I don't know any state that could be able to sustain themselves doing it. And that means a lot of people will lose their health insurance. They lose their especially the medical, anything, all the health care will be gone. And what that means, a lot of people will die. Because they will have no access to health care. And right now, just like I said, we have that over $600 million backfill for Medicaid to make sure that people continue to get health insurance, to make sure that we fund our nursing homes, make sure that we fund our hospitals. But I'm telling you, if Medicaid dries up, a lot of hospitals will close up.
That's true. That's very true.
A lot of doctors will not be able to provide these services, and a lot of people will die. And to me, that is a formula for genocide. I mean, you might as well, that's killing people.
Really, really. And that's so, without a doubt.
The person who asked a question about the nursing homes and about any other program that receives Medicaid funding, we're working at the General Assembly at the state level to try to make sure that we backfill the part that we have to pay. But Lord knows, if Medicaid leaves the federal government at that level, a lot of people are just going to be without health insurance.
Exactly.
And Senator, that would be the case for all states, pretty much?
Yes, ma'am. And that would be all 50 states. They'd be everywhere.
So I just wanted to ask real quick.
That'd be blue states, red states, if you're purple, whatever. That would be for everybody. And see, and a lot of these people did not think. Now you could look, let me tell you what the backdoor game is. I get to hear a lot of what's going on at the federal level. A lot of these Republicans are going into the governor and going into the president's office and to his staff trying to say, can you please give me a pass? I can't.
Exactly.
I can't let this happen to my people.
That's right.
And they're stuttering, stammering all over themselves because they realize now. But with as much damage and carnage as this Trump administration is causing all these members of Congress, why on earth do they not speak up and push back on him? I don't get it.
Exactly.
And the sad part about it is that they're afraid of Musk dollars, but Musk is now kind of backing away from Trump. So I don't know what their whole that little segment of the population who are in support of Trump, they would not carry any of them over in a general election.
Well, I don't know what. Well, you hear all the talk today about the inside trading.
Oh yeah, inside trading going on,
and a lot of them are keeping quiet because of
it still looks like it.
A lot of them are keeping quiet because they feel like it's going to give them an opportunity to become millionaires, billionaires, and become wealthy themselves. That means they sell their constituents down the river.
Down the river.
Exactly.
Down the river.
Every time.
They will enrich. It's like enrich yourselves and the hell with the constituents.
Exactly.
Which is most
to why we need people who look like us who are in these offices, because it is those individuals who call for the study to find out.
What? And I told James, I said, James, I want to be able to come back on your podcast when we can talk about the consequences of our elections, not just that.
Thank you.
The consequences of not having leadership enough to be able to say, look, we can't have 10 people run for 3 seats and think that you're going to be able to get a majority.
Thank you.
Why do people keep running like wolves in a wilderness when James, when I come back on, I want to talk about the fact that we're going to have 3 seats up next year.
Yeah, sometimes you hate going back, but you remember the Central Civic Forum,
we have to go back.
That was a formula that worked during that time. So,
and let me tell you something. You know how sometimes in church the pastor will tell you got to go back and do your first work. you got to repent and go back and do it all over again.
Do it
Well,
all
Lord,
over
no,
again.
we need to sit some people down.
Thank you.
10
Thank you.
people cannot run for 3 seats and expect to get the best qualified people elected.
It's
So
not
when
going to
are
happen.
we going to learn that we cannot continue to do that?
Right,
And so
exactly.
I know that's
Yeah.
not, this is all about the state
But
legislation.
Well,
the consequences of elections is very important.
Absolutely.
It is
Yeah.
Absolutely.
very
And
important.
right now, look at the composition of your city council. You know what it is? You had too many people running.
Mm-hmm. Too many people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Plain and
I
simple.
think I think that's a good segue, like you said, for another show that we're going to have. I wanted to ask you this. You mentioned about the HBCUs and all the money that you all appropriated for them and some other things. So all that state money. So nothing that they do, Trump and them do, will affect that.
No, that's state money. No, it will not.
That's all state. Okay.
No, he cannot. There's nothing they can do to affect it. The only thing is that if we run into a situation where uh we need to fund something that's going to require extra money, we may not be able to give the same amount in the next budget next year.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they're
Mhm.
not going to lose anything that they already had.
Okay.
Exactly.
They're going to keep that. Like we put up money for one of the new buildings that's going to happen at Norfolk State University. Dr. Jason already brought me over and recognized me for all of that. But of course, Darlene, you know about it. But that's going to stay. And I can tell you this: as long as God gives me strength and health, and I stay in my right frame of mind, don't go Lulu, whatever. as
Yeah. I
long
just.
as long as long as I'm able, I'm not going to walk away from the position I'm in now where I know I can make a difference
Yeah.
in my community. Not
Mm-hmm.
doing it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
Exactly.
I just wanted to
Working
ask
too
that.
long,
And
too hard. It's taking too many years. You all have invested too much in me for me to walk away now. I've
Mm-hmm.
and
been
you and us. And you and us.
and I've
Yeah.
been
And I.
chair of finance now. This is my second year being chair of finance. This is my 6th year being chair of president pro tem. And just like Don Scott said when he was talking about what happened to him in the Virginia Beach school system, Don,
Yes.
Don and I are
Outrageous.
we are in a set. We in the pipeline. Let's say, for example, if something happened to the governor, lieutenant governor, Don Scott and I in the line of succession.
Yes. Yes.
When are
Mm-hmm.
we going to get that again? And right now, we're pretty much the the center of gravity is what I call it. With Don
Mm-hmm.
Scott being the Speaker of the House, me being President pro tem, being chair of Senate Finance and Appropriation. Even though I had to give up my chair as Education and Health to take to take chair of Finance and Appropriation, I still serve on Education and Health, not going anywhere. That committee I have served on since I took my oath of office in 1992. And as God give me strength, I intend to stay there until the very last breath.
Mm-hmm.
And we appreciate it because under the circumstances, we don't we don't actually have anyone that reflects that energy like you do. It people are getting knocked down, and you were saying about council. I live in Hampton. There we had about 10, 11 people running for city council seat. We only had 3 seats.
Mm-hmm.
And
They
of
just
that
split the votes up every which way.
of the 3 seats, I think we had two other seats, maybe like five altogether. But again, so many people, like you said, splitting up votes, and especially when everybody kind of tends to be in the same cultural box there,
Exactly.
it really can
Exactly.
tear some things up. But on the same note, we don't I think there's some leadership that needs to come from that, and people like yourself, and getting out there to be able to let folks know how
Yeah.
they need to run,
Yeah.
how you need to conduct yourself, what do you need to be doing, because I personally don't feel that some people are getting the best advice, Senator. I
Right.
really don't. But you and Senator Locke and other women that have been there and stood the test of time truly need to share some of that, where folks, because again, some young lady out there wants to be in your shoes, and she's got time. She's 30 something, and she's got 30 more years
Yeah,
that
she
she
got
can
30
stay
more
in there
years to get to
too.
where I am. Yep.
And she needs that energy from you, and the young men as well. So that's what I feel is something truly necessary. I don't know if you do a workshop or what, but I just think some of our people just need more guidance from inside and not guidance from people that don't really know. Well, I should say people that think they know everything, but they really don't. They're not giving such good advice.
Darlene, I just want to share this with the audience. Every young person that I have brought into my office to either be a page or an intern have gone on to do great things. Let me just start with a few. Aja Moore, Sher Moore's daughter,
Okay.
came to my office in her junior year when she was still in college and served as an intern in my office for 2 years. And then after she graduated, she came and served as my legislative assistant. She did so well, made such an impression that Ralph Northam stole her from me. And then after that, a lobbyist stole her from him. And she's now moved on to be the top lobbyist for William and Mary.
All right now. All right.
Vernon Tillage was one of my chief of staff.
Okay.
Vernon Tillage came to me. He had just graduated from ODU. Graduation ceremony right there in my building at the Lucas Professional Center. He served as my chief of staff, and then he went to work for Mark Warner. He went to work for Verizon. He got elected to the school board and now city council.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
Say again.
I said that's what I'm talking about.
And let me give you another example. Will Smith, who was my chief of staff.
Yes.
He came and worked he came in working on my campaign for re-election. Got me reelected, became my chief of staff. And now he's gone to work for Dominion.
Powerful company.
And I'm just telling you, all of the young people who have come to my office have gone on to do bigger and better things.
Yeah. I see Mr. Tillage has made his statement.
And say again?
I see Mr. Tillage has made his statement up here.
Oh, let me say thank you, Senator Lucas, for leadership. Oh, you delivered once again for Portsmouth. Oh, thank you, Vernon. I appreciate that so much. Oh, I can see it now.
Yeah.
Vernon, I didn't know you were on, but I had to call you out to talk about all of the great things you've done and all of the people who've come through my office. And I've had interns,
Good.
I've had aides who've worked in my office, and all of them have gone on. Even and Aaron Carter, she helped Cynthia Morrison.
Yeah.
She helped me. Her. Then she went on to work for Mark Warner. All of them got that exposure with us. And they got paid.
Yeah. But it's so needed, Senator. It's so needed.
And they got paid.
Yeah. Getting paid, but also that experience.
Paid. And so now they've gone. And thank you, Vernon. Didn't know you were on, but thank you for being there listening.
Yeah, we have to prepare for the future.
Yes, we do. And we have people in the pipeline.
Oh yeah.
And so when I retire, I know we have lots of good talent to choose from. And I just pray they will be able to stay there long enough so that one day they will be able to say, we have another president pro tem, another chair of Senate Finance, another chair of Education and Health, another speaker.
Come on.
Enforcement.
Exactly.
Senator Lucas, before we're about running out of time, but I want you to.
Oh my God, the hour went by so fast.
Yeah, we're gonna have to come back and do it again because it's a lot more you have to talk about that you can share. And I consider that.
Oh, wait a minute. That's Tamisha Brim, my new chief of staff is on the line. Tamisha Brim, let me tell you a real quick story. Tamisha Brim served in my office as my legislative office manager when Vernon Tillage was chief of staff, when Jonathan Freeman was chief of staff, who now is a lead person out in Loudoun County, who also came into my office and did really, really great things. She served under Will Smith. And so after they all retired, after they all went on to bigger and better things, Tamisha's daughter had gotten out of high school, was in college, finishing up college. And now Tamisha Brim is now my new chief of staff.
Go ahead on, Tamisha. Congratulations.
That's what I'm talking about. We are so needing of that.
Everybody who's worked in my office has moved up, and Tamisha has worked on the Lucas Lodge side, in the administrative part of the office, and then I brought her over to the legislative side, and she was the legislative office manager. And after serving on, was Jonathan, Lamont, Will. After she served on 3 chief of staff, she's now the chief of staff herself.
That's
Excellent.
very good.
Excellent.
That's so great. Playing it forward.
She just gave everybody the phone number to be able to contact her. So when you all
Yeah.
have questions about whether it's tolls or how to access any of the state agencies that you might be able to get assistance from, just call that number and you'll have Tamisha. And of course, we have Jackson Miller and we have Nyla. Nyla, who is also niece. Oh, you all know who her aunt is.
Yeah, I'm gonna
But
leave that up there. But what I want you to do now, Senator, before we leave, is make your appeal to the voters out there and the citizens of Virginia and the localities, and how they need to participate in what needs to be done in order for us to be safe, to carry on, and to protect what we've had all these years. So give your appeal because you can't sit back on the couch
oh no.
and complain and not be involved. You have to go to those local meetings. You have to go to those town hall meetings. Speak up. They have to call your office
Yep.
and let you know how they feel. So I'm telling you what you should be telling them. So go ahead, you tell them.
Okay. Well,
Amen.
I want to start by saying, first of all, you have to be involved in your committee, in your community, just like all the other young people who have served in my office. They have been involved with their committee, with their community, through their civic leagues, through their churches, through whatever political organizations that are available to them, Democratic committee. They've been involved in the community. So when they come to us, they have some skills. So when they offer themselves to run for public office, like Vernon. When Vernon decided he was going to run for school board, he already had experience on his belt. He had worked as my legislative assistant, had worked as my chief of staff. He'd worked with Mark Warner, and all of these experiences. That's what you put together to offer yourself to the community. People are not going to elect somebody who has not been able to show them what they can do for them.
Awesome. Yep.
And so you've got to put yourself out there and show people that you care about your community. You don't just jump out there and run just because you want to run for something without having done anything for anybody.
That's right.
And so get involved. I don't care if it's the NAACP, whether it's your Democratic committee, whether it's your church. There are lots of other organizations out there. Fashion, remember, James, just like we used to have the Central Civic Forum. Get involved and move around the city and all of these don't just go to one civic league meeting, go to all of them, find out what's going on in all of the civic leagues all over the city.
Exactly.
Indeed. And I just put a late post up there. Your daughter Lisa had put up there, what are the chances of Virginia's Assembly increasing the Democratic majority in the House by more than one this year?
Oh, absolutely. Let me tell you what, that's the reason why. If ever there was a time for to have boots on the ground, we need all hands on deck, all boots on the ground, because if we can increase the number of delegates in the House, we don't have to worry about going over to try to peel off 2 or 3 Republicans to make sure that we have a majority, or either try to get to a 2/3 vote so that we can overturn the governor's veto. We need numbers. The numbers is what matters. And so there is an opportunity. And I'm glad that Lisa's on because, and I'm going to say it right now, Lisa is running next year. So you're going to have Lisa, Vernon, and I know Mark Hugh going to run. So who can knock off the 3 of them? Because I'm just assuming that Moody's not going to run. But anyway, why would people want to get involved in a campaign when you got 3 strong people can win, and anybody else is only going to pick out the votes? Oh, well, get back to the point, James, of getting people involved. We want to make sure people are involved. If they want to come and volunteer in my office, they can do that. If they want to shadow me when I go to all of these town hall meetings that I have to do all across the state, they can do that. There's so much that they can do to be involved, to be helpful, to help make sure that we deliver in November and try to get more seats in the General Assembly, specifically this year in the House of Delegates. Thank you for asking that question, Lisa. And I hope I didn't put you out there, but yeah, you did tell me you were running. So I just want everybody
It's out there now. Okay. Well, we really want to thank you for coming on, and I want to thank you, Darlene, for being a guest host, and we're going to look forward to bringing you back as a guest host. And when you have your activities, please come back. When is your activity coming up? The one that's coming up, the annual.
Yeah, our fundraising gala is Saturday at the Convention Center over in Hampton. So we're all pretty much set, ready to go. Dr. Steve Perry from the Connecticut area, Dr. Perry is going to be our guest speaker. And so
Excellent
we're
guest
pretty,
speaker. Excellent guest
yeah.
speaker.
Yeah, Leah, he's coming back. That's the other reason why I was gonna miss you.
Oh,
He's gonna be in person with us, and he's looking forward to it. So it's an annual event, and so Senator Lucas will be sure to shoot you some information on that for next year. We're
Thank
small,
you.
we're learning, and we're growing. Not
mhm.
trying to act like we out here, turning the world upside down. We trying to do the best we can do, and we're learning the ins and outs and who to talk to and what to do. So it's been challenging, but it's been a good challenge. And
Anything worth having is worth the challenge and worth
there
fighting
you
for. So
go. There you
Exactly.
go,
keep
Senator.
up the hard work, Darlene. Just know that we're gonna be pulling for you. You will do well.
Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, James, for this opportunity. And Leah, love you guys.
Love you
And
too.
I
Thank you
love
for
Thank
you
you.
all
accepting.
too. I'm looking forward to coming back to talk about the election.
Yeah, we got to talk
Yes,
about the
indeed.
election.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Thank
we'll
you.
work that out. And
Thank you.
thanks
Thank you for
everybody.
having me.
And Leah, you want to close us out? And I want to say this to Sanice Johnson, who had left a couple of comments. I'll pass them on to Senator Lucas, but your comments was so long that if I put them up, it blocked the whole screen. But and it would have taken a while. But I'll pass those on to the senator, and I'm sure she'll respond to you, Sanice. Thank you for watching. Appreciate it.
Thank
Leah,
you.
close us out, and thanks a
Well,
lot, Senator.
we're
Oh,
so
it's been my
happy to
pleasure.
have
It
you
has
to
been a
come
pleasure.
on.
It has been my pleasure. I look forward to
Thank
doing it
you.
again.
Thank you so very much. We look forward to your coming back to Portsmouth Coffee Talk to talk about the upcoming elections, which we need to be prepared for and need to get the word out so people can know what they need to do. So we look forward to that, Senator. Thank you so very much. Darlene, thank you so much for coming on. And we
You're
just look
welcome.
forward to great things taking place. And it is because we have the leadership of the senator and the
Yes.
speaker
Yes.
that we are able to progress in Virginia far better than a whole lot of other states
That's
Hmm.
correct.
because they've taken
Hmm.
the gauntlet and they've run with it. So I want to say thank you for all that you've done and all that you will continue to do
Yeah.
for the Commonwealth of Virginia and most of all for the city of Portsmouth, Virginia.
My
Thank you so
pleasure.
very much. And we look forward to having you back soon.
I look forward to it.
We need to talk about this election coming up real soon,
Yeah.
okay?
Yes, we do. Yes,
We
we do.
really do. So, James,
And
thank
Leah,
you.
people watching, what they need to do.
Oh, yes. And
Mhm.
listen, and don't forget anyone who may have missed the live show today, you can always go back on Facebook, James' page, my page, Portsmouth Coffee Talk page to see it. Or you can go to our YouTube channel and you can like and subscribe YouTube. So, Senator, this is out there forever now. It's on
Thank
YouTube
you.
forever, okay? So we
Thank
just thank
you.
you so very much. Thank you all so very much.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, we appreciate you.
It's
We'll
been
see you
great.
next time. Take care.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye bye.
Be our guest.